Hello, how's it going everyone? So in this video, we're gonna be talking about Google and Meta ads and where do they fit in the funnel along with all the other campaign types that we see over here. Now, keep in mind that there's going to be some variation to this. You might want more of bottom of funnel, more of top of funnel. This is just going to be a general understanding of how the platform works for you guys. We have evidence of this all across the board on our other channel, CPro Growth, and that will pretty much be covering the actual evidence of this, not necessarily just talking in theory like this. This is my area to where I want to simplify the concepts for you guys. But if you're nerds and you want to see evidence of it, you can go and check out that other channel, CPro Growth. So anyways, let's jump into it. We're going to be covering lead generation, e-commerce, and SaaS first. So for the most part, we're going to do Google ads versus Meta ads. What is going to be more top of funnel? Meta ads is going to be more top of funnel. Google ads is going to be more bottom of funnel. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Most of the scale potential is going to come from Meta, and the least amount or lower amount of scale potential is going to come from Google. Now, that's not to say that Google can't scale. We're just capturing the demand side of the equation. So think of like local businesses working really well for Google ads on like search, whereas on Meta it wouldn't perform as well. If you have like a plumber, let's say, and you're looking for a specific issue, we're not going to educate someone on the issue nearly as much as we're going to find profitability from scooping up people searching for a plumber near them. So anyways, just wanted to put that out there, that you don't have to focus on top of funnel first for some businesses in the traditional sense. So cool. So that is the first portion, Meta, and I'll just leave it like this actually to make sure that we can sort of see the angles here. Cool. So the next part that I want to cover is Meta. So typically what we will do is we'll have a conversion-based campaign. So that's all we're focused on in this entire scenario here. We're only doing conversion-based campaigns with the exception of two types of campaigns, and I'll cover that in just a moment. So the first thing is we have Advantage Plus with DPA, Advantage Plus no DPA, and then traffic list targeting. I'm going to start with e-commerce. So for e-commerce, we mainly just do Advantage Plus no DPA. If we find out that there's a longer sales cycle and we need to add in more middle of funnel and bottom of funnel, then we will add in Advantage Plus with DPA. This will be a separate campaign because DPA goes extremely warm and it is more of a demand capture than a demand generation. If we are now talking about SaaS, Andromeda is being played out across all the conversion-based campaigns, right? So we're talking about apps, sales, and leads. And so what that means is we're still using the Advantage Plus Andromeda campaign for leads when it comes to lead generation. So this is still acting as our top of funnel, and then obviously we don't have display ads there. And then if we want to push more towards the B2B side of the equation and it's a more finite audience, then it looks more like this, right? Advantage Plus is kind of our middle funnel, and then traffic list targeting is our top of funnel. It really just depends on, like I said, the business itself. But in most cases, we typically are just in this scenario here with a standard sales campaign. Now, the reason why we've also found a lot of success with this Advantage Plus campaign versus what everyone's saying, oh my gosh, they hate Andromeda. I love Andromeda. It's like the best thing ever because it makes reactive marketing actually work, meaning that we can listen to the market versus trying to build out and guess. And so what this means is it also runs into the potential issue of going warm. So I want to just highlight this because it's very important. So what do I mean by that? If you have a lot of LTV or you have another source of traffic that is driving potential purchasers to the awareness of your business and then leading to conversions, Meta could scoop that up because there are no audience bounds to it. I know there's like a hack where you can go and you can change the age demos and then turn off Advantage Plus audiences. We've tried that. It still does not work like it did before because we're not going after different audience clusters. So the way that we get around this is we use CAPI imports with first click new customer data being pumped in via edge tag. We're not doing this via something like LFR or standard server-side tracking. We're doing this via a edge tag server-based import. So that is something that is provided by a third party. So Audience OS is one of those, and Blotout is also one of those as well. So we'll pick one or the other kind of thing. And then when it comes down to Google, so let's move this over here. We have all of this noise over here and people are like, what the heck is going on? I want to try everything. And so the issue with this is that Google is very misleading because it tends to be more bottom of funnel, which means that it looks a lot better than it actually is for the business. This is why we track P&Ls. We don't track ROAS. We track actual growth of the business from the top of funnel, which is how we've actually figured this out in the first place. So Anyways, if we were to say the biggest question of them all, Performance Max, where do we see this mainly? Scooping up conversions as a bottom of funnel campaign. Now, if you're only running Google, potentially it can be scooping up new customers if you have no LTV and you're just one-off product sales. Totally makes sense to potentially run this as your full funnel, all in one, just scooping up demand kind of thing. But we see it more as a bottom of funnel campaign because it scoops up the demand. Pretty straightforward. Even if you do brand exclusions and you have all the cold signals per se or suggestions, it's still going to go, typically it's going to favor bottom of funnel more so than top of funnel. So we have PMax as the bottom of funnel. Demand gen, this is another one that a lot of people have questions of. I have always seen demand gen fit kind of in this middle of funnel and bottom of funnel range because it's using conversion-based bidding, and conversion-based bidding inside of Google tends to favor warm traffic, bottom of funnel repeat users that are searching or that are just browsing, and it just says, oh, I'm going to show an ad once and now I'm going to count it as I got the sale when it really didn't in the first place. And on top of that, Google's modeling data, so just due to privacy laws, so click data is not even real fully inside of Google. A lot of it's just assumptions now, which is even crazier. So ROAS is even further away from the truth when it comes to running this campaign type. So I have always seen demand gen as being more of a middle funnel / bottom of funnel when it comes to the overall just trend lines that I see. Now, for clarification too, this is a feed only Performance Max campaign, and this is for shopping. I want to say, I should have said that earlier, this is for e-commerce. So we're going to go through that first. So anyways, this is a feed only, and then this is a fully built out demand gen, both on conversion-based bidding, aggressive as possible. It still fits in these areas. Okay, so the next thing is shopping. So shopping, I would say, is more top of funnel in terms of Google itself. Now remember that I have Google on the bottom and Meta on the top. Shopping is pretty cold in terms of what Google can do. However, it's not totally top of funnel because you can have someone that has heard about your brand name, knows the product you're selling, but forgot about your brand name and types in the product, right? So think of something like you're a supplement brand and you're selling protein shakes. They could type in protein shakes and have heard of you from another source like Facebook and then convert it, even though it's a cold term. So shopping is kind of in this top of funnel, middle of funnel area. Search, pretty straightforward, same exact thing, right? We're in that middle area between top and middle of the funnel. We just have to be very careful about, even with all the brand exclusions, not overspending on this because it could be retargeting people and scooping up the conversions from traffic that looks like cold terms or that is cold terms, but it's still repeat customers or people already aware of the brand. The next thing that I want to throw in here is discovery and display. Those are out of here. So I do not use discovery or display. I try to stay away from those. It's awful. If you were to run display, I run it only as bottom of funnel, but I'd rather just run it in Performance Max because it just consolidates all of it together. And I don't really care if my display is doing better than my, product listing. So anyways, that is over there. I hate discovery and I hate display. I've tried them both and it has not worked for me. Now, there are some cases where it has worked for other people that I've been talking to. I've seen their accounts, and that is mainly for offers that are geared towards long buying cycles for general lead generation, not as much on the e-commerce side, but more the lead generation side of the equation. So that is something to kind of keep aware of. But yeah, I've seen these go, for the record, as more bottom of funnel, and it just overlaps with Performance Max. Okay, so the last one that we use a lot that we actually like is YouTube sequencing. So YouTube sequencing is very hard. However, it works very well for building top of funnel awareness. I would put this way up there on the top of funnel equation, right? Like I would put this as like, the king of top of funnel when it comes to Google, just because it is not conversion based bidding and it is going as cold as possible, and we are telling new people our brand story. Now, the problem with this is that it's very hard to track, and so we tend to run this later after we've kind of maxed everything else out and we're like, hey, we want to experiment and we're going to run a crazy budget, like a 30 or 40% of the omni-channel mix into YouTube sequencing over a couple months to see what that does to the overall funnel, just because it's so cold. So it can work really well. It just requires a lot of targeting and making sure that you're hitting the right audience, because if you don't, you run into the scenario of overspending on people that are not necessarily qualified and are not necessarily clicking on the ads themselves in I guess the more quality-based way that you want to track. Now, we would be looking at leading indicators for this as well too. So click-through rate, or looking for example, general add to carts, or initial like free audits or checklists, or whatever the case is, further up the funnel of your pipeline is what we'd be benchmarking for this in the first place to get kind of a better idea as to what's going on. So anyways, I know this was a lot. There's a lot in here. For clarification on demand gen as well, we typically just run demand gen on or as YouTube. We don't really run display in there. We might run a little bit of discovery, but I'm not a fan of discovery. It's mainly just YouTube. So I view demand gen as just conversion-based YouTube now for the most part. So with that being said, thank you guys. I wanted to give you guys a general overview of what we are seeing as sort of the general best practices for macro strategies when it comes to top, middle, and bottom of funnel. If you guys have any questions on this, feel free to ask, but this has been, pretty much what we found for the most part. So wanted to give you guys all the info as possible, as quickly and as simply as possible. So anyways, I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks.